Hello, hello, humans. Good to see you all once again. It is your favorite color surfing DJ, Serjay Svek, back with yet another spectacular stream. And whether you're watching live, whether you're watching the VOD, whether you're chatting or lurking, you are all welcome here. And I hope that this stream will bring a little more color to your day. Welcome, welcome to the show, everyone. It is now 8:41 a.m. on Saturday, August 31, 2024. That time check was brought to you by yours truly. And good to see you all once again, and shout out to our early birds. We do have Regina, and we do have Aki as well. Welcome, welcome. How are you all doing today? Let me just fix everything here first, make sure everything is all set. And yeah, we are just chilling it here for today. I actually have no idea what we're going to be streaming or what we're going to be doing after this, but there was one thing that was really, really, really important to me that occurred this week, and I really wanted to talk about it. But yes, it is the weekend, so any plans for the weekend? Any conventions that you plan to visit among the numerous ones that seem to be happening every single day now, apparently? Hope you're all doing well and that you are enjoying. But even if you don't have any plans, I hope that you're at least able to get a restful weekend. Hopefully get yourself rested and recharged, and hopefully get something good out of it. So, yun. I hope that you are all taking care. Me, I'm just gonna be most likely just gonna be resting and relaxing as well. Might be planning something for the week, a couple of weeks after, who knows, the next month after. But I do know this, that for tomorrow, in the Philippines at least, I'm already gonna say Merry Christmas, everybody. It's gonna be September 1, the beginning of the Christmas season here in the Philippines, yes. So be warned, everybody. If you're going to be using public transportation, please be prepared already to hear whenever I see girls and boys and the girls and boys see me. It's going to be happening, yes. There is no escape. Yes. I mean, if you think about it, Giorno, I'm sure that you also have a dream too, but I'm not sure. And then it also involves public transportation, I know. But in the Philippines, at least, I don't know where you're from, but we have to deal with having to listen to Christmas songs being played on the speakers in public transportation. So trains, buses, vans, stuff like that. Why? Well, it's a tradition that nobody really seems to question nowadays. It's been like that for ages. It's been like that since I was born, and it's probably going to stay like that long, long after I'm gone. So there we go. Christmas music in August? No, not in August. September 1. So by tomorrow in the Philippines, it's going to start. Aki mentions, what's this? You've got a local tourney to prepare for. Nice. What tournament are you gonna be playing for? Are you gonna be playing, by the way? And yes, DJ, JMC, Jose Marie-chan, let's go! Oh, you're playing Tekken 8. I see, Aki. Who do you main? And it's a very interesting thing that you mentioned that, because if Regina is still here, then they are a Lydia main. So they finally got their main with them. So we'll see if that's something that you or who you main. I'm a Filthy Dragonov main. Yes. Apparently he's top tier. So don't blame me, okay? I main Dragonov since Tekken 5 the Dark Resurrection, so I can't do anything about that. It came with the program. What do you mean Raven is gross? Well, I don't know about Raven's tiers in Tekken. I'm never the type of person to pay attention to tier lists, honestly. So I never really knew what exactly is up with Raven and his tiers. I only know tiers of the kingdom, so if Raven is supposed to be low tier or high tier, it just so happens that apparently Dragonov is disgustingly high tier. Oh my goodness. But yeah, the national fighting game of the Philippines, apparently, Tekken. And it's kind of funny that way because I remember growing up that Street Fighter was a really big thing. But eventually Tekken just took over. And it never went back. It was always going to be Tekken, and it never changed at all. Hi. What's this? Aki says it's not that high as far as I know. He's not that up there. It's just not a lot of people see him around, so that's shock value. I see. Okay. Hey Reeker, welcome. And Aki says, around me it wasn't much of Street Fighter as it was MVC, Marvel vs. Capcom, and Tekken. Ah, that's actually a very nice transition to what we're going to be talking about for today, because while everybody was going crazy over the Sonic 3 movie trailer, and then it shows that Shadow the Hedgehog is appearing, so me, at the very same day that I was, going to work and doing all that, I went home and then I looked at Twitter, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, I saw something that I thought my eyes would never see. The Capcom Fighting Collection 2. It just blew my mind, and I thought that I thought I was going to froth at the mouth and die. Okay? So we're gonna be looking at the trailer together, and then you're gonna hear me geek out for like maybe more than a few minutes. Okay, I don't know how long we're gonna talk about it because, chat, you will have to listen. Okay, this is the opposite of gatekeeping. Okay, this is called gate opening. You will listen to my hobbies. Ain't that right, Reeker? You're gonna hear me yap, yap, yap until the end of time. Aki says pre-orders are available for MVC. Oh yes. Hold on, let me just double check my Steam real quick if pre-orders are available. Ah, yes, it is. Okay, but it's 2.5 though. I'll chat if someone wants to spoil me on my upcoming birthday. You're free to check out my Steam list. Wink wink. Yeah, just kidding. But yes, anyway, that was not very subtle at all, apparently. And yeah, I thought that we were never going to get Marvel vs. Capcom's collections at all, because after everything that happened with with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, it didn't seem like anything would be happening in the future. But as they said, is it a guarantee that we're going to be getting a new Marvel vs. Capcom game in the future? Most likely not. But at least like people like what Maximilian was saying is that at the very least it lets Capcom know that there are people who are interested in collections like these, and maybe these will pave the way to future collections of their classic games. So apparently this is what it led out to. Maybe not directly, but it did lead to the Capcom Fighting Collection 2. So, and it was also quite interesting because, as you mentioned, Aki, pre-orders are already available for Marvel vs. Capcom Collection, and that is going to come out in September. And then Fighting Collection 2 is going to come out in 2025. So Capcom has like really been pushing forward with this, because I did not expect that we would be getting another collection so fast. The last Capcom Fighting Collection was back in 2022, I believe. So from this 2-year gap, now we only have like a few months of difference, potentially. So I don't know what's been going on, if the hype from the previous collection actually helped it, or the MVC collection, who knows. But I'm not complaining. As much as I grew up with the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, I'm really, really hyped up to play Collection 2, honestly. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the trailer, and then we're gonna talk about, you know, my feelings about it, and again, why I am so excited about Collection 2 in particular. So let's go ahead and move on to the next screen, and then we'll talk about it. Aki says 12. You mean 2012? Sorry. Origins Collection? Ah, yeah, that's the one. But that one is just X-Men and Marvel vs. Superheroes. We're talking about the newer Marvel vs. Capcom collection that we're talking about. The one coming up. But anyway, let's go take a look at that. Okay, class, we're going to be doing a film showing. Alright, so this is the part where we wheel in the TV into the classroom, and then everybody will be able to watch. And as you can see, we have Max going berserk already with the announcement of the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. And then we got the Fighting Collection 2, which is what I was really, really going in for. Ah, yes, memories of VCRs. Those were the days. Alright, so again, let's go take a look at the trailer of Capcom Fighting Collection 2, and then we'll talk about, you know, what I feel about this whole thing. Yeah, we're gonna be doing something I haven't done in a very long time. We're gonna be making react content. Capcom! The art. My god, it comes back. My god. Capcom Pro. They got 2 as well. That's very nice. I was blown away by this, Power Stone included. And Power Stone 2 as well. Especially this, Project Justice, blew my mind. And yeah, we'll have to give in to Fighting Evolution. But this, I also really wanted to play, Plasma Sword. Oh god, yes. This is... My god. It's like I want to go through frame by frame of this when we're done. They have boxes. They have hit boxes. Yes, you can pretend that you're playing on a CRTV again. My goodness. Go, imagine going online playing Power Stone. I like this song that they're playing in the background. The Kyo Erasure. It's just Terry. Hyo Kusanagi who? I don't know. But yeah. Alright, so let's go take a look at this. So, yes, there's no Star Gladiator, it's just Plasma Sword, because if we look through the list of games, all of these are games that are mostly from the Dreamcast era. And Star Gladiator was PlayStation 1 era. And this is the root of what made me really happy about getting this collection in the first place. Because as a kid, I only grew up with PlayStation 1. And I was a PlayStation fanboy growing up, because back then, when it first appeared, playing Tekken 1 and 2, I was like, oh god, this is so realistic, when everything looked so blocky and low res now in hindsight, but back then that was so beautiful. And you know, I don't think, at least in my part of the country, I don't think the Dreamcast was ever a big thing for me growing up. So I missed out on all of these games. And so the only time that I could actually play games like these, so if I wanted to play Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2, if I wanted to play Power Stone or Plasma Sword, then that's something that I would have to play in the arcades. Oh yes, also Alpha 3. But if you're a kid growing up, it can be a bit scary if you're like me, who is not good at video games, especially fighting games. And then you have to deal with, you know, all those big grown-up kids, and then you have to make sure that you can actually play if you want to earn your right to stay on the arcade cabinet. That's why I used to hang back and just watch Brother Svek play, because Brother Svek is really good at fighting games. He could, especially during the Marvel days, he could spend like maybe an hour just sitting there on the on the arcade, and then he would just whoop people in Marvel superheroes. But going to this question here, they got re-released in PS2, was it not? Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2? Yes, they were. But I didn't, well, for me at least, I didn't get to a PS2 until much, much later. And it was actually given to me by a friend of Brother Svek. And the only thing I got to experience was Capcom vs. SNK 1, because they had a port of it in the PlayStation 1, which I did. If you compare, there's like a video on YouTube which compares the port, the Dreamcast port, and the PlayStation 1 port. And dear Lord, there's so much loading on the PlayStation 1 port, my god. And they had to cut out so many things when it comes to like animations, transitions, stuff like that, just so that, you know, it would not set your PlayStation 1 on fire. And I remember first seeing it with Cousin Svek, because Cousin Svek was another gamer. When I would visit him over the summer, we would play video games. And one time, he only had a PlayStation 1 as well. And then one time, I ran into him, and then he was playing Capcom vs. SNK on the PlayStation 1. And I was saying, wait a second, that has to be fake. There was no way they were going to be able to make Capcom vs. SNK work on a PlayStation 1. But apparently they did. So, good job, guys. You were able to make it possible without burning everything. Kind of like how they were all these jokes nowadays about the Nintendo Switch being able to run very powerful games. Heck, even the other day when this was announced for the Nintendo Switch, they also said that they announced a port of Yakuza Kiwami on the Nintendo Switch. And I'm just like, good job, guys. If only you could do the same with the other Yakuza games, that would be nice. Make it play all of Yakuza on the go. That would be awesome if that was possible. But anyway, so there's this one. I think these were also, well, most of these had lives in the PS2. I think no. I think it's Capcom vs SNK 2 definitely. Power Stone 1 and 2 were Dreamcast, and then they also were re-released on the PSP, PlayStation Portable, which I played. And there was a Power Stone collection there, and then you could play that. And that's where I got most of my experience for that. Mentioned earlier was Star Gladiator, and that is the prequel to Plasma Sword. So, this is this is a game that I did also saw in the arcades, but I never got the chance to understand it. But for those of you who might have never heard of this game, if you check out the guy over here, that's Hayato. And if he looks familiar to you, he also made his other appearance in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I was really bummed that he did not get to appear in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Infinite. So it really seeing him, because I didn't really make the connection until much later, but when I saw him in MVC2, I was like, "Oh, he's so cool." He's like Capcom what's this? Capcom answer to Star Wars. And apparently the series of Star Gladiator and Plasma Sword did originate. It was supposed to be a Star Wars fighting game. And it really is, quote unquote, Star Wars bootleg Capcom fighting game with Samurai Darth Vader. Aki. But the thing is, it was supposed to be that, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes. So they removed it. So they removed like the Star Wars aspects of it, changed some things, and then it became Star Gladiator. So Star Gladiator, Episode 1, Final Crusade. That title was a mouthful, goodness gracious. And it's only Episode 1, but it's already Final Crusade. My gosh. And that was also released for the PlayStation 1, which I played. And if you haven't played that one, think of it like a very slow Soul Calibur. And so if you've played those, it's like closer to like Soul Blade or Soul Edge. So those things were very, very slow. You know how old 3D fighting games were? They were very, very blocky, very slow. But when we move on to like Plasma Sword, you could see how fast it moves. It's just amazing to see how fast everything moves. But be warned, the flashing effects were just way too many. I don't know what it is about old games and their love for very, very, very flashy effects, but holy cow, if you manage to defeat someone with a super in this game, you will get like rainbow light effects and then like 5 different camera angle changes. Okay, so yes, as Aki says, they love causing seizures because holy cow, especially with some games, I can't name them off the top of my head, but if certain games that really loved having like white flashing screens whenever you hit your super, those were just awful. Bloody Roar 2 was an example, yes, especially with how, and it's not really the flashing lights, but the fact that the characters blur even more, so you can't even see what's going on half the time. But yeah, Star Gladiator 2, Plasma Sword, and yeah, if you thought Star Gladiator's title, again, was Star Gladiator, Episode 1, Final Crusade. Then we have Plasma Sword, Star Gladiator 2, Episode 2, Nightmare of Bill Stein. Yes. How many colons are we gonna need for this? Bring everything that you need. But yes, holy cow, I've been wanting to play this game. The only thing I don't like about about Plasma Sword is that half of the cast is, I don't know if it's clones or palette swaps, but if you look over here, you already see here a few. So you got Saturn here, the green guy, and then right below him is Prince. So they operate very, very similarly. Echo Fighters from Smash, perfect. Then you got June here, who fights with a ring, and oh, look at that, it's L, who also fights with the ring. And then we have Geralt over here, and then right next to him is Claire. Both of them use rapiers and stuff, and so on and so forth. And then there's Vector and Omega down here. Bill Stein has his own quote-unquote Echo Fighter named Ghost Bill Stein. This is supposed to be Ghost Bill Stein, and which is funny because this is the original look of Bill Stein in Star Gladiator. So anyway, long story short, half of the game cast was bloated Echo Fighters, which to me kind of seems annoying. But yes, as Aki mentions, they do have like different supers. They may have like different mechanics, but I do wish they had like more originality to them. But I guess it was also just the limitations of the thing. So there's nothing we could do about that. Okay, so we'll go down the others, and let's just go through the trailer a bit more. Let's just see if there's anything we could see. Oh yes, look at that. Good God. Just seeing this art immediately brought back memories. Even if I never played this game, you could tell if you're like me. I don't know how and why, but I can, like, if I look at fighting games, and I love listening to fighting game music. And another thing that I like looking at is the art. And a number of Japanese artists, I know them from their work with fighting games. So yeah, hello. Hello over here, Kino Nishimura. So, and Kino Nishimura, who worked with Capcom for a very long time, and was also responsible for the art behind 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. So basically the Zero Escape games. And what else? But they're very prominent. And they work with a number of Capcom properties. And then there was this other one, I forgot, that the princess style beat 'em up. The main character is a blonde with a big sword. So you could really tell, if we could get like a female character viewed, you could really tell if it's Kino Nishimura, because if you see Kino Nishimura's female characters, if they do like a pout with their lips, it's like, if you've seen enough of that, you could tell, yeah, that's Kino Nishimura. It's like, oh, that's it. That's the tell. And if we go further here, yep, it's good old Shinkiro. You could really tell. There we go. Yes, Code of Princess. That's the one. That's the one. Thank you. That's the game. Infamous artwork. Yes, that one. But then we are moving over to Shinkiro, and Shinkiro is like, who's the guy that made Kingdom Come? That, but for video games. And this is funny too, because Shinkiro was always known for their very, very realistic art and faces, but as a result, their poses are not as dynamic as Kinu's. But we can at least see that they do have not so many like what's this, like so much emphasis on like very strong lines and stuff. It's a bit more hazy and stuff to accommodate. Shinkiro's art used to work with SNK around this time, and they've been doing SNK art for a very long time, even back in the days of Fatal Fury 1. And eventually they moved over to Capcom and their style changed. Instead of becoming like this super realistic and sort of like, I can't really use my words because I'm not very familiar with art terms, but very realistic, almost blurred, not really fluid. That's not the word that I'm looking for. It's not really dynamic either, because these are not very dynamic poses. But when you look at their work that they do in games like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, the art style has changed. So it's not this hazy, blended look. It's a lot more comic booky. There's a lot more contrast when it comes to light and shadow. And there's that. But unfortunately, the drawbacks of Shinkiro's art style is because it can be a bit awkward. All right, let's skip this for a second. I wanna show this one. Let's see. Let me show you this one. Kinu Nishimura Morrigan. For sure. There's going to be an art here. There we go. This is CVS2 Morrigan. I just need to take one look at this. Ignore everything else, okay? Just take a look at the shading, but look at how Morrigan pouts. Okay? If you see how the lips just look like this, it's like ignoring everything else. Like, yeah, that's Kino Nishimura. It's like if people might be saying, Serjay, you're looking at this body part or this body part. Like, nah, it's the way they do the faces. And even here, yeah, you could really tell that's a Kinu Nishimura art, because if they're not pouting, you can tell with how they draw like that line beneath for the lower lip. It's like, yeah, that speaks for it. Same here. This is definitely that art. See, they got the Nishimura pout again. Okay. Manga art with comic shading. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, and then we move on to Shinkiro. So if you look over to Shinkiro, the thing is, like we mentioned earlier, Shinkiro's art was very, very realistic. But they don't really have like the dynamic poses that Kino Nishimura does in at least Marvel vs. Capcom. The thing is, it led to the infamous Shin Akuma face. The really, really uncanny smile is like, yeah! What up? I mean, Akuma's supposed to be like very, very scary. He's supposed to be like, yeah, I'm gonna, nothing beats the power of my fist. But here he looks like he's, especially with the glowy eyes, he almost looks like he found a sale on like Shopee and Lazada. And it's like, yeah, full power, let's go. It's like that, oh god. Like, it can be, again, this is always why I advocate for like stylized work and stylized art, because stylized never looks uncanny. Again, this is the comparison. Shin Akuma, there's Shinkiro on the left, and then here's Kino on the right. Okay, so very, very different approaches. So I don't know, you could choose one or the other. I'm just saying, you know, if you've got Shin Akuma looking like this, then, as Aki says, looks like you killed your dad, but to him it's only a Tuesday. It's like you've got, like, he's taking over for M. Bison. Yeah, M. Bison should be the one who should be smiling all the time. That's his gimmick, not Akuma. Akuma's always supposed to be serious. Good God. And here is, oh yes, this is classic Shinkiro. Look at that. Again, Geese Howard. Classic Geese Howard smile. My goodness. This is how he used to shade. So this is what I was trying to say, is that he got this more like blurred, hazy look during the era of Capcom vs. SNK 2. And then before, it was more like this. So it was a little bit, I suppose, for lack of a better term, like watercolory. But yes, as you can see, he really, really went hard on the wrinkles. And look at the teeth on Geese right here. Geese is trying to do his best M. Bison impression. It's Geese's really awkward brother, Goose. And his long-lost sister, Grace Howard, apparently. Good God. Alright. But anyway, when Shinkiro does well, Shinkiro does well. I mean, look at what they did with Haomaru. Okay, that's a good art right there. I hope it's an official art. But when he went over to Tatsunoko versus Capcom, and when he started doing more art for Capcom, you could see the style has changed. So it looks a little more, I suppose, cell shady, I guess. Ryu looks amazing here. And I think, I'm not sure if we have it in a poster here. Let me check. There, okay. So there, as you can see, they have a few more dynamic poses now, and it looks a lot more cell shady like. I guess it's also like part of the, what's this? It's part of the times, as you say, Aki. Cell shading was the Capcom staple from Street Fighter 4 to Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which is true. I guess it was just what they were trying to go for. But yeah, if you really wanted like super realistic work, Shinkiro was there for most of SNK. I remember their work for Metal Slug and then a bunch of other SNK games. Like, you could tell that's an SNK game because Shinkiro's art was there. But later on, when they moved over to Capcom, you know, that was like, oh, that's different. But yeah, classic. This one that I saw from King of Fighters 98. This is one that I remember seeing quite a long time ago. If it's not uncanny, it's really good. But yeah. Also, just one more before we go back. Shout out to Alex. Please bring Alex back to Street Fighter 6. Goodness. Aki says, you wonder if it was a demand from Capcom for him to switch. I do not know. I don't really know what happened behind the scenes, but I guess it was just contracts or something. I don't know. But yeah. Excuse me. And then we move over to the rest. And then, of course, Hyrush. But if you can see over here, let's just see the lineup over here. We got, again, this is Shinkiro art on the far right, in the more distinct present Capcom style, I think. So, if I recall correctly. And this one for Akira from Project Justice. I forgot the name of the artist, but I've seen that artist for a very, very long time. Rival Schools artist. I don't know if it's Bengus or... Who was the artist at the time who did that? Edayan. Okay, there we go, Edayan. It's, let's just see, because whenever I look at Edayan's work, is he also the artist behind Ace Attorney? There we go. Yes, Edean's artist. Okay. Ace Attorney. I was right. I was right. Because if you look at let's just look at the classic Ace Attorney cover. Okay, look, Ace Attorney 1. I don't know if you could see like the male faces here. Maybe if we could scroll down the trailer a bit more. We could see over here. There we go. So if you look here at the cover of Project Justice, you could, and then you can compare it over here to the box art of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, especially the male faces, the strong chins, the very detailed expressions here. You could tell. As soon as I saw the Ace Attorney cover, I was like, "Yep, that is the same artist." So it's a fun guessing game to try and check like who does what. And then as soon as I saw Ace Attorney first appear on Game Boy Advance, I was like, is that the Rival Schools guy? Because this guy, what's this? Miles Edgeworth, he just looks like Hyo from Rival Schools. If you just give him like a super long ponytail, and then if you just give him a super long ponytail, Miles Edgeworth just looks like Hyo. They even have the same. They don't really have the same bangs, but they have the same white hair and affinity for red. So yeah, that is just. It's just spot the difference. Yeah, that's just fun. It's just fun things that I like to do. Hyo got the hair cut and let it hang loose. Yes. Which is very appropriate. Yes, indeed. Okay. And, okay, so we go over here to, again, we move over to Pro. So Capcom vs. SNK Pro. Again, I only managed to play this with a miracle from, what's this? On the PlayStation 1. And I did play it a bit on the arcade. That's how I was first introduced to it. It's kind of funny because that was what really caused me to separate from Brother Svek. What I mean is because Brother Svek was like a Marvel vs. Capcom guy. Ever since X-Men Children of the Atom, he started playing all of the Marvel games. But he could never really get into the style of Capcom vs. SNK. And while everybody else was still playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in the arcades, I went to the Capcom vs. SNK machine, and I did pretty well. I would always end up in the boss fights. Usually it was against Geese over here. I would lose every time, but holy cow, it was such a fun time to be able to, get to a game that I actually enjoyed. And from there, I researched a bit more. I found out more about the King of Fighters and Terry in particular. And for those of you who don't know, the why I have stars on my outfit and a lot of red, it's because of Mr. Terry Bogard over there. And I definitely need to start playing him in Street Fighter 6 when the time comes, when I'm free. I'm really looking forward to his inclusion. Actually, that was the reason why I went back to playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate after a long time because he appeared on there as a DLC. I was like, yep, Mr. Terrence is here. Let's go ahead and say hello. Okay, so there's that. Nothing else much to say because I did share my stories about that. And yeah, I really wish I could say, "Are you okay? Bust the Wolf?" But I don't think I could pull it off as Mr. Bogart can. All right, and then we move over to CVS 2, and this was definitely not available for PlayStation 1. But I remember, I think it was, I don't know if it was ever moved to PS2. I think it was. And at least here, they had like a better representation of SNK and Capcom. Because when we go back to CVS 1, unfortunately, it seemed to be a lot more closer to Street Fighter versus King of Fighters. If you look at the cast lineup over here, almost everybody was in Street Fighter for the Capcom side. Almost everybody was a King of Fighters character on the SNK side. The only characters that were like way out there were Morrigan for Capcom and Nakaruru for SNK, because they were from Darkstalkers and Samurai Showdown respectively. But here, when we move on to CVS 2, now we have a sort of wider representation, because now we have Haomaru. Wait, let me just see. Okay, we don't really have it here, but we do have, for example, Maki from Final Fight for Capcom and Kyosuke from Rival Schools. And if we go back a little bit here, we do have Haomaru also from Samurai Showdown. And another one, if I recall, I think Morrigan was still part of it. And Hibiki from The Last Blade was also featured for SNK. Athena is, or Athena, if you want to pronounce it, as they would. She is technically her own franchise, but she's been like attached to King of Fighters for a very long time, so she doesn't really count. So it's still Street Fighter and King of Fighters, but with a bit more. So at least they have a little bit more variety to them. And yeah, same thing, still no Kyo. The Kyo Erasure Initiative is very successful. Yes, indeed. Except he's still here. Okay, why are you still here, Kyo? Oh my god. And also, yeah, Rock Howard is here. Maximilian dude is really, really happy because he can get to use Rock Howard again, my god. So, next is Power Stone. Good god. I remember when Power Stone first appeared in arcades, and I don't know if any of you have experienced that time when arcades had like this big, they had like, some arcade cabinets were huge, and then they had this gigantic wide screen that projected the game. So usually that would come for the new arrivals, and those would usually be right at the very entrance of the arcade. So people outside could get like a free view. I remember during that time, there were 3 arcade machines like that in my local arcade. And then there were 3 the 3 games that were there were Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, and Power Stone. And, you know, seeing the gameplay of this is just like, I would suppose like Super Smash Brothers, but with arenas and stuff like that. You could pick up items and such. It's not really, how should I say? It doesn't really rely on the environment because it's still one-on-one. It's still proper 1v1. So if you think about it, it's closer to like Guys, instead of like Super Smash Brothers. And then, yeah, you could collect power-ups, weapons and stuff. And there's a lot of things that utilize the environment if you want to do well in this game. Let's see here. Aki says, MVC2 was front and center at SM San Lazaro, just showcasing me getting my teeth kicked in all of its CRT glory. Yes, I was a shy kid at the time. You would have never caught me, okay, playing this game on the big screen. Eventually, when they sized down the arcade, they removed all the big screens. So they just moved. So I could play on the smaller screens. I could now play Power Stone, MVC2, and Third Strike for a while. But then I couldn't play arcade games anymore. But I always made sure to play Power Stone because it is fun. We'll definitely when we get this collection, I'll definitely play this one quite a lot. It's it just brings back memories, especially since we do have Ayame here. It's funny because whenever when I would used to watch, there was always this guy that would play Ayame, and there it was like it happened twice. That when I was watching this person, I don't again memory might be fuzzy, so I'm not sure if it's the same guy, but they would pick Ayame, and then for some reason they had to leave the arcade machine. Maybe they had to be called for an appointment or something, but then they would be left and no one would play. So me taking advantage, I picked up and then I used Ayame. So she became my main for like a while when I started playing Power Stone. But when I moved over, when I started playing by myself without using someone else's arcade playthrough, it's still funny to me because there are instances like that. Like sometimes the original player has to leave for some reason, so you have to take over. But what if they come back? I don't want to think of the possibility. But yes, it has happened. It has been a bit awkward, but in those times they never came back, so I got to use Ayame, and then I got to, become a pink bunny rabbit. But after a while, my main became Wang Tang, and he's pretty much like, became like a Super Saiyan. Using a Genki Dama, throwing a giant sphere of energy at you, holy cow. And the funny thing about this is that if you had AXN growing up, Power Stone actually had its own anime. I was already a big fan of the game because of how unique the presentation was. I was kind of getting tired already of like all the 2D fighting games that I used to play. But then when Power Stone came out and then it had an anime as well coming out, it's like, whoa. Okay, they had a pretty decent story, not gonna lie. There were some changes to be able to make it a little more exciting as an anime, but it did exist, and it did play out in AXN. So, but some clips are available on YouTube. I'm not gonna play them because I don't want to get in trouble. But yes, it existed, and it was a fun ride. A lighthearted thing. Don't expect like super dark topics on that. But as much as I love Power Stone 1, I wasn't really a big fan of Power Stone 2. Because, for one, it really focused more on the one-on-one aspects. So you don't have to worry about interference coming in. But now you have to deal with, with 2, because for 2, it was really more of a party game. As you can see, instead of now you have to worry about a 4-on-4, it's a 4v4 situation. So, and because of that, you also have to deal with things like vehicles. You have to deal with moving stages. So there are times when you have to like move to a higher platform, for example, because you're escaping like lava. Or burning ground, those sorts of things. So it is not as predictable as Power Stone 1, because yes, while the environments can be while the environments can be a bit difficult to traverse or to move through, in Power Stone 1, at least that's the only thing you have to go through. You just have to stay in that room. But here in 2, you have to go through this area, then a few seconds later, then they'll ask, the camera angles change, you have to climb up a bunch of platforms and make sure you don't hit the bottom, and then you have to enter this room, and then you can start fighting again. There's a lot to manage here, and then because of that, they had to remove some of the moves that you had in Power Stone 1. And that really bothered me because I really liked having the complete move list. It sacrificed being a 1v1 fighting game to be a party game. So this is where it feels more like Smash Brothers. And as Aki mentions, Power Stone 2 really was its own thing. One of the first arena fighting games. Actually, it's a very, very, very appropriate descriptor of it, now that you mention it. It really does feel more like an arena fighting game. You know, you really have to focus more on items, weapons, vehicles. So it's like Fortnite. Where are we dropping, boys? But yeah, I wasn't really that into Power Stone 2 in comparison. So, but when we get the collection, we'll give it a try so you could see what it's about. But yeah, this is the whole thing. You have to deal with all of that. But then we move over to Project Justice. And that was one game that I really, really, really wanted to play my entire life and more, because I did not have a Dreamcast. When I knew that there was a sequel to Rival Schools, I was like, oh man, I really wanted to play that, but I couldn't. So yeah, good old Edayan art. Hi Min, good morning, welcome to the stream. Project Justice is the sequel to Rival Schools. And Rival Schools, yes, again, PlayStation 1, playable during that time. And this is the real Rival Schools 2. I say real because I remember growing up. This is another story from old Grandpa Serjay. Because at the time, there were we didn't have a PlayStation 1. So during the days when I didn't have a PlayStation 1, me and cousin Svek would go to a house. And if you know, and those houses, you know, there were times when, you know, neighborhood houses would be converted into internet cafes, so you could go play Counter-Strike with your friends. But there were other houses that not only had the option for you to play on PCs, you could also play PlayStation 1s. You could rent out the PlayStation 1, select your game, and then play for the hour or two or whatever. So a number of times during those summer days, vacation days, I would go with cousin Svek over to one of those houses, and then we would play PlayStation 1 games only. And, well, you know, while the other kids were busy playing like Crash Bandicoot or Crash Team Racing, we only ever played like Tekken 3 or Rival Schools or Mega Man X5. And the thing is, Rival Schools was already confusing because the original game, if you wanted to play Rival Schools, you would have to, there were like 2 CDs that came with it. So one was the arcade CD, and that was the one that was used to replicate the arcade experience. So you do have the original arcade mode with the arcade story mode and everything, and then you have the other CD, which is the Evolution disc. And the Evolution disc is the one that has mini games in there, so you could like kick soccer balls into a net. You could try playing home run derby with baseballs and stuff like that, those sorts of things. So my kid mind used to think the Evolution disc was Rival Schools 2. I don't know why, but I thought that was the case. And then going back to that house where we rented PlayStation 1 for a while, on the wall there was a CD labeled Rival Schools 2. And I was so excited, and I told Cousin Svek, hey, cuz, take a look at that. All right, that is Rival Schools 2. Let's go ahead and play. And it turns out that that was not Rival Schools 2. That was actually another Rival Schools game. It had a very long Japanese title. Maybe that's why it was just listed as Rival Schools to Rivals to RPG, whatever you call that thing. But that's where it was introduced. So there was one with an RPG mode. So this quote unquote Rival Schools 2 we're talking about is one with like a specific RPG mode, visual novel, which I didn't. Well, Cousin Svek and I didn't really care about that because it was all in Japanese anyway. So we didn't really bother learning about that. But yes, this is what it looked like. And if you notice, because, but they're both made by Capcom, Sakura from Street Fighter Alpha appears as a guest in Rival Schools and also in Project Justice. So, very, very fun thing because, again, Sakura is in high school, so perfect crossover material. Bring her over to Rival Schools, and eventually Akira would eventually cross over to Street Fighter V. So just a way to acknowledge that they are in the same shared universe as well. But yeah, what made those two mainly different is that the original Rival Schools game was 2v2. So you had to your main character, and then you have your assist character, and you could do like tag team specials. So depending on what you could do big damage, or if or like you could like regain like higher super bar, or regain some of your health, those sorts of things. So it was like that, just 2v2, and then after your first character is beaten, you have the option of staying as this character, or you could go switch to your backup character, like that. But in Project Justice, they changed it because now it is 3v3. So you still have your main character, and then you could still do tag. So you could pick one party member. So let's say Powered Akira would pick either Edge down here or Daigo. So, and then they would have like their special tag team technique. But as you can see here, what made it special is that they have also a party up technique, which uses all three members of the same team. And they're pretty cool. Being able to finally see, how everything works together, because most of the teams are divided into three anyway. So, over here is Taiyo High School. So all of them, Batsu, Hinata, and Kyosuke, are part of the same school, Taiyo High School. And then you have the teachers team. So even though Hayato is also a teacher in Taiyo High School, he is lumped with Kyoko and Hideo over here from Justice High School. It's just, oh my god, it's just the memories are just flooding in. All right, that you have these rivalries between schools. It's that the whole story behind Rival Schools is that these kids are just going to school regularly, and then they have to deal with the fact that there are kidnappings and brainwashings that are occurring to their students, and then they have to start fighting their way to solving mysteries. So this is like Capcom's version of a shonen anime. All right, You have to you have to fight your way and defend your schools from all of these brainwashed other students. It's just oh my god. Yeah, wake up, go to school, save the world, kill God. There we go. Perfect. Very, very colorful cast of students. Some of them having very, very interesting abilities, stuff. So, let me see if we could like view the image from another tab. Also, here's Akira from Street Fighter V, and let's see here. So, as you can see over here, we do have back here who's posing like a JoJo character. In green, we have Nagare, who is one of the characters introduced in that Rival Schools 2 that I mentioned earlier, and he's a competitive swimmer. So one of his specials actually involves him swimming in midair, and the other one is him lying on the ground and kicking his feet and producing water. And his tag team technique is you and your opponent all doing like a synchronized swimming routine. Just crazy. And then we also have Momo over here, who is a tennis player. So all of her moves and specials involve using tennis. And she is tiny, but apparently, according to the lore, her tennis racket is actually reinforced steel, because she hits the balls so hard that the rackets break every single time. Normal rackets break. And then we also have Ran Hibiki over here on the far right, another one from that quote-unquote Rival Schools 2 game. And she is in the school newspaper. And all of her attacks involve taking pictures. So she takes pictures to stun you, and then her tag team is that you would hold down the opponent, and then she would just go crazy taking a ton of pictures of them. It's just all the abilities that these students have are just weird. Yes, this is just like Frank West before Frank West became existed. So yeah, you've got Shoma, the baseball player, Natsu, the volleyball player, Roberto, the soccer player, all of these, and Kyoko, the school nurse, who is really, really painful to deal with when she grabs you. So those sorts of things. So it's just, I really wanted to see. I was one of those people that really wanted to see Rival Schools and Project Justice have a sequel, but how would they transfer the zaniness of the 90s and early 2000s lifestyle over to the 2020s or 2010s? Just say for that example. So I don't know how they would do it, but it's just something that I really wish we could think about. It's just a funny thing. Also, coincidentally, now that I'm looking at this, if you look at all the poses here on the side, it's almost weird that Batsu and Hayato, Hinata and Kyoko, and then Kyosuke and Hideo have almost like very similar poses. I just realized it now on the artwork. It's like, woo, mirrors of the future. My goodness. But yeah, this is a fun game that I never got to try, Project Justice, available on the Dreamcast. But yeah, shonen anime, the fighting game. Yes. And let's see, what else have we got? So we also have Street Fighter Alpha 3 Upper. So if you've watched Capcom throughout the 90s and the 2000s, you know their tendency of trying to make like super ultra champion mega turbo edition of their games, starting with Street Fighter. And the Alpha series was definitely one of those too. Even just Alpha 3 was already quite a lot to deal with, because first you have the original Alpha 3. And when it got ported over to consoles, Alpha 3 Alpha 3 included some of the Street Fighter 2 characters that originally weren't included in the arcade versions. So we have characters like Fei Long down here, and then T-Hawk and DJ over there as examples. And some of the secret characters also from the arcade version, so like Junie and Julie, and I guess Balrog as well. But yeah, Alpha 3 Upper is the last arcade version of this game, from what I've been told. And this is the one that now includes those console characters. So if ever you wanted to play Fei Long and DJ and T-Hawk in the arcade version of Alpha 3, Alpha 3 Upper is the one that you play. I do wish that they put in Alpha 3 Max instead, because Alpha 3 Max is the one that includes some characters from Capcom versus SNK 2. So some of these were ported over to Alpha 3 Max. One of them being Maki over here. So she's got this super high definition sprite trying to fit into all of these all of these sprites that come in from 1998. It's really, really weird seeing it like that. And that's where Ingrid would come in as well. That's where she would also make an appearance in Alpha 3 Max. That was the one. I'm not sure if that's the one for the Game Boy Advance, but definitely for the one for PSP. That's the one that I played for PSP. And I also played the original Alpha 3 on PlayStation 1. So since this is the arcade version, I doubt that we are going to be seeing some of the console exclusive things. So things like World Tour Mode probably won't be appearing. I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do. But I am not holding out hope to see stuff like that. And Aki says, Capcom's just notorious for doing that. It's just visually jarring. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, even here, if you look at the screenshot, this is Guile from... they tried to re-envision him from Alpha 3 for the Alpha series. But if you look at DJ over here, this is pretty much his sprite from Street Fighter 2. They just like cleaned it up so it looks a little bit closer to the Alpha style. But it is still... If you've seen his sprites from Street Fighter 2, this is pretty much him. Look at the shading, and then compare it to Guile. It still has that somewhat shinier shading look compared to Guile's, like, you know, flatter, more distinct colors. So there. Yeah, like Street Fighter 2 Turbo upscaled a bit. Perfect example, Aki. So this is the same thing that they did for T-Hawk and Fei Long. Those sorts of things. Yeah, he has fewer pixels than Guile. Yes, that's true. That's true. Yes. So that's what they tried to do in trying to bring those characters to Alpha. But then when you look at Ingrid here, this is what she looks like. And if you put her in the Alpha series, she really, really stood out more because her animations were so fluid. It was just you cannot deny it anymore that, you know, they were really trying to bring her back into like this really, really old game. It was even already obvious when when Maki, Eagle, and Yun were brought over from Capcom vs. SNK 2 with these very, very detailed sprites. See here. And then they bring it over here to Alpha 3. Oh my god, what an experience that was. But, you know, that was... You know, they had to make sacrifices, but, you know, at least, hey, if you wanted to play Street Fighter Alpha 3 with all these characters, at least you had that option. But, unfortunately, the latest list of characters that you could play in this game are up to DJ, T-Hawk, Fei Long, Junie and Julie. I think, and Guile. and maybe Evil Ryu and Shinakuma, I think. So we'll see about that. Fei Long kind of transitioned better than those two, but not by a long shot. Yeah, at least he kind of looks better in that game. And Maki looks like a 60 FPS in a 30 FPS game. Yes, it's the problem of trying to like cram all of these high definition frames into something that was not meant to take it. But you know, they tried. Again, they did what they could, and then it kind of worked. It kind of worked. Okay, so we're moving on to that to Capcom Fighting Evolution, which was something. I'm not excited for this game, but at least, hey, look at that. It's the Shinkiro art I was talking about. This is the time when Shinkiro was trying to do more art for Capcom from SNK. And again, you could tell because of the super hyper realistic faces. Although the shading is a lot different now. Again, it looks more like, for lack of a better term, cel shading. So there's that. But there, hey, Ingrid popping out from the corner. I was just so happy that this is the game where we could finally play Alex again. Because he was introduced in Street Fighter 3 as like the new protagonist of the next generation of Street Fighter after Ryu. But for those who know the Street Fighter history, Street Fighter 3 was not received kindly because they got rid of all of the mainstay characters from Street Fighter 2 and replaced almost all of them. So yeah, I did not expect to see Alex anytime soon, but hey, he managed to appear here. He managed to appear in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom and also in Street Fighter 5. Please put him back in Street Fighter 6 Capcom. He was my main. But yeah, the thing about Capcom Fighting Evolution is that, from what I've read, this is not the best kind of crossover, only because it didn't really, you know, just by the graphics alone, it kind of didn't really make sense. You got very detailed Ingrid over here. And then Jeddah from Darkstalkers, who hasn't had a very updated sprite coming in, and it was just really, really off. And what they tried to do in this game is that they tried to incorporate the details, how shall I say? Like the things like the moves and the supers that you would find from their respective games. So for Ingrid, hers would be like the alpha style super bar, and then it would be divided into 3. And then Jeddah over here has a super bar that only goes up to 1 each time, and then it divides. So you get things like your Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 1 characters, Street Fighter 2 characters, Street Fighter 3, even those Chun-Li appeared in Street Fighter 2 or debuted in Street Fighter 2. Her fighting style is the one from Street Fighter 3. Street Fighter Alpha, and then Darkstalkers, and then Red Earth. So if you like dinosaurs, then you can definitely experience, you know, fighting what it's like with... You can fight a giant T-Rex, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to see if we can find like a frame of where Hauser is. Because holy cow, that is just something, my goodness. Imagine being able to fight a giant dinosaur in a game like this. That's the concept of Red Earth. Red Earth is like 2D fighting Monster Hunter. Pretty much. Okay, so that's basically it in a nutshell. You are fighting giant squid monsters, giant sphinxes, T-Rexes, stuff like that. So it was something. And again, as you can see, a huge difference in the sprite quality. From what I heard, this game was like really rushed. They didn't really get to go through a lot of it. But yeah, if there's anything good that came out of it, It's that at least they got to expose the world to that there are other Darkstalkers characters aside from Morrigan. This is like the first time that Jeddah got into a crossover game. And the next one that he appeared in was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. And Dimitri, the actual protagonist of Darkstalkers, was also here. And then his next one was in SNK vs. Capcom Chaos. But then, yeah, I would understand why they don't really go for him in comparison to Morrigan, because Dimitri Maximoff over here, he looks like this. Not the most visually striking character, but there are jokes. If you take a look at that, if you look over here, there is a big resemblance between him and Kazuya from Tekken. They have the same swept up hair like this, and then the same evil thing, and then also at one point I think Dimitri also wore purple, which Kazuya is known for. So there's that. What's this? Aki says, wasn't Jeddah in SVC Chaos? No, that was just Dimitri. Jeddah moved straight to MVCI. We're not going to focus on the other spin-off games like Namco X Capcom or whatever, but anyway, just the main fighting games. And trivia, Dimitri really is supposed to be the protagonist of the Darkstalkers series. That's why the original games, before it was known as Darkstalkers, it was called Vampire. So Vampire, Vampire Hunter, Vampire Savior. Because it was really just him. Okay, he was supposed to be the protagonist. But unfortunately, he has a tendency to make very scary faces like this. And he's a jerk. So if you play Tekken and you know about the story behind Kazuya, Kazuya probably took notes from Dimitri. So, okay, I'm gonna talk about lore here because I want to go on this tangent. All right. So, Aki says, it was never meant to be Morrigan. No, Morrigan is not the protagonist, but she has pretty much become the face of the Darkstalkers franchise. So, the idea is, Dimitri is just this guy from Makai, the demon realm, and then he's a vampire. He wants to take over. He wants to gain more power. The problem is that in lore, he got defeated by Morrigan's father, Belial. And after he got defeated, his castle was moved over from the demon realm over to Earth. And then he landed in Romania. So that's where Romania, which is where Transylvania is. So in universe, Dimitri is the source of all the vampire lore, vampire stories, because they take it from him. And while Dimitri still has typical well, not really. He doesn't have vampire weaknesses, from what I know. The only thing that he has is this aura here. My aura. Is this aura, because this will enable him to walk in sunlight. So that's how powerful he is. But he's still not as powerful as Morrigan. So that's why he and Morrigan have a very, very antagonistic relationship, because he craves the power that Morrigan has so he can, come back home and try to conquer it. So those sorts of things, that's your trivia of the day. And unfortunately, Dimitri is not the nicest person to do it. So you could see why Morrigan was chosen instead. Because, I mean, if you look at this guy, would you want him as the face of your fighting game franchise? Probably not. Okay, he is not the nicest face to slap on a box And he's not the nicest person either, morally speaking. And yes, even just like many fighting games and video games at the time, there was also a Darkstalkers anime OVA that appeared. But you know what's even weirder? They actually had a Darkstalkers cartoon. And oh my goodness, just like what they did with Street Fighter, they also had like a Darkstalkers, excuse me, a Street Fighter cartoon. What was very Americanized. What's this? And then this is what Dimitri looks like. And then this is what Morrigan looks like. So that's you're probably not gonna be looking for like the same experience. But there was an anime OVA, and it was way more accurate to the lore and appearances of everybody. Gosh. Oh yeah, apparently death battle. So between him and Slayer. Anyway, Aki says, was it him at the protagonist seat, or did Donovan get into the mix? Not sure if because what Aki is mentioning here is another character from the Darkstalkers series. Okay, lore, traveling, stuff like that. Hold on, I wanna talk about it because again, this is not gatekeeping. This is gate opening. You will listen to my brain rot. So one of the characters from Darkstalkers is Donovan Bane, and he is one of the titular vampire hunters, and he goes around with his big honking sword that spins around him. He doesn't need to hold it, so he's like the precursor to all the Genshin Impact characters. You know how in Genshin they never seem to carry their weapons? It's always floating behind them. Donovan was doing that way back in the 90s. And he's a Dhampir. So he was a child born from a vamp. I forgot the term. Like why it's called Dhampir. If he is like a half vampire, like one of his parents is a vampire, or like the woman or his mother was bitten by a vampire, something like that. So he does have some vampiric attributes, but he's trying to do good. And I think in the lore he did have like some protagonist ability, but still the main protagonist of the Darkstalkers series is still Dimitri. Bad boy Dimitri over here. So, but then again, after that, but then the main focus of the advertising went over to Morrigan. So there's that. And Morrigan is not a vampire, by the way. She's a succubus. So, there's that. And Twitter loves Morrigan, apparently. I don't know why, but until now, there's still a lot of people drawing fan art of Morrigan. God bless them. Holy cow. There's that. Okay, so... And yeah. And good old Jeddah over there. I really hope that one of these days, they bring back Darkstalkers into the modern day. It's just... It's kind of hard to translate like Darkstalkers with all of their zany character designs, because Darkstalkers is all horror trope monsters. So let me just Darkstalkers characters. So you have Frankenstein's monster, a Sasquatch, merman, and then Catwoman, werewolf, Jiangshi, zombies, bunch of that. So how can you translate the very cartoony character designs from 2D over to the 3D style, especially if they use the RE engine from that they use for, let's say, Street Fighter 6. It's gonna be very, very, very realistic. And you have to account for the fact that actually the original 2D Darkstalkers games, they had fatalities, like Mortal Kombat. But it was never as graphic as Mortal Kombat. Ever. You could see, like, maybe bodies cut in two, but you could never really see blood. It was just like, you know, a black hole where the body is divided, for example. Stuff like that. And it never really lingered on it like Mortal Kombat fatalities. The only... Rico was just caked up. Yeah, that's true. Rico is over here. The merman. Also Sasquatch here. And a bunch of others. Also Felicia, very, very popular. She also got into Mortal Kombat. Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Surprisingly, she was already Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But I did not expect that Shenko over here would also be joining her and Morrigan. So all three of the Darkstalkers ladies appeared in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So that was an interesting surprise. Morrigan is definitely going to come in. Whenever there's a crossover game with Capcom, you can bet your bottom dollar that Morrigan is going to appear. Morrigan has been in more crossover games than Darkstalkers games. At this point, Dimitri, the actual protagonist, has only been in like 2 crossovers from Capcom, and not counting like the RPG spin-offs and whatnot. I'm talking about the fighting games, and almost none of the other characters get in the other fighting game spin-offs. So there's that. But again, I really hope that we could get a new Darkstalkers game down the line. But I really hope that they would, you know, do something with Jeddah. Because the problem with Jeddah is that in lore, he is made of blood. And there's going to be a lot of red liquid appearing on screen. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But they already fixed it when he was in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite by changing the blood red into purple. So instead of like being covered in blood, you're being covered in grape jelly. Which is okay too, because they also nerfed one of his win poses. So instead of his original win pose, which is him scratching his eyes with his claws and then just bleeding out and laughing maniacally, he's just doing the same pose but without scratching out his eyes. And the funny thing is, when you see that win pose, you could still hear the finger scratching sound, even though nothing is happening. Oh my gosh. But he also does weird stuff, Aki. Aside from like scratching his eyes, he can cut off his own arm and extend it so he could be hit like blood tentacles. And he even cuts off his own head in one move so he could hit you with a spray of blood. So if there is one character in Darkstalkers that would be like the most difficult to adapt to 3D, it would be Jeddah. If the closest equivalent to Jeddah in modern day fighting games is Havoc. It's Havoc, excuse me, Havoc from Mortal Kombat 1. It's really, really interesting that they were able to pull off Havoc's whole gimmick, but then again, it's Mortal Kombat 1. But how they can get Jeddah to work in 3D without bringing the age rating to M, I don't know, but that'll be on Capcom's thing. Yeah. There we go. And yeah, so we also already tackled Plasma Sword. Let's just take a very quick look at the art gallery over here. Aki says, I think MVCI really did his visuals well. It did. It did. It didn't have to be super accurate, but they did a good job of trying to translate Jeddah over to 3D. So here, so we take a look at the art gallery. Again, you could take a look at the difference between Kino Nishimura and Shinkiro over here. There, you see that? Look at Chun-Li. Look at her mouth. She is doing the classic Kino Nishimura pout. That's how you know that it's a Kino Nishimura artwork. Okay, and aside from the shading as well, it's like, yep, that's them. And this is like classic 2000 Shinkiro. Like, there we go. And then if we take a look over here, excuse me, then, you know, classic, again, Rival Schools Project Justice. So we've got Edayan artwork, really, really good. You could also tell because of the distinct shading and how everybody has like really big hands. Those are some huge grabbers right there. Like, really be able to reach out to the screen. Goodness gracious. Then we move over here. Concept art of Rouge from what's this? From Power Stone. And then yeah, this was her original original costume, original transformed costume. They had to censor these obviously when the final game came out. But yeah, she kind of gives vibes of what Shantae would be. Until now, I'm still not sure if Shantae is like originally a Capcom property, because it was their name on the publisher's thing. So I don't know if Shantae would still be considered Capcom or Wayfo or what eventually it would be. I don't know. But yeah, Shantae is like one of those other characters, video game characters, that I am not sure if they belong to Capcom, just like Jack from Mad World or Jean from God Hand. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, concept art of Power Stone 2. We got Axel and Gourmand. Okay, so yep, there's a lot of, as you can see over here, a lot of the gameplay style of Power Stone 2 is not really focused on one-on-one anymore, but you have to focus on commanding vehicles and weapons, and then trying to ensure that you have like a lot more mobility. So there's that. Yo, Aki says, I don't think so. She's just published by Capcom. Oh yeah, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, she's just published by Capcom. Gotcha. Alright, anyway, let's move to the next one. Hey Ren, welcome to the stream. Let me just give you a shout out over here. Yeah, we're just geeking out over Capcom because this is games that I've been wanting to play for centuries. And now we are living in the timeline that finally allows me to play the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 in 2025. So this means that I need to stay alive until then so I can finally play this collection, my god. Yeah, this is from Star Gladiator in the center. Okay. And then here is from Power Stone. Okay, you could see Kraken's mechanical arm. He's the second to the last character that you fight. He's like a sub-boss. He's gonna be fun to see. I don't know if we could play him, but we'll see. And then more stuff. This is Rugal. Originally from King of Fighters, but what appeared in Capcom vs. SNK. He has a pet panther. So he's so evil, he fights with a pet panther, which of course he sends away. So there's that. Oh my goodness. And let's see here. Rugal Bernstein. Dear Lord. I will never forgive that time. Okay, very interesting tangent. They actually made a King of Fighters movie. Gordon Liu, I will never forgive you. My god. Okay, and then what's this? Yeah, this is your Kyo Kusanagi. Played by Sean Faris, my goodness. This was also around the same time that Dragon Ball Evolution, the worst Dragon Ball movie ever created, existed. And over here, This is Rugal. He doesn't have the blonde hair. He doesn't have the mustache. He does have the mechanical eye, at least. So there's that. The But the only saving grace is that Ray Park really had a lot of fun apparently playing this character. He was really hammy. It's like when you compare it to like the Street Fighter movie with Raul Julia, like of course it's only like Tuesday and stuff like that. Those sorts of things. At least you could tell that Raul Julia was having fun despite how corny the movie was. And he is the best part of it. Ray Park is like the only tolerable part of the movie because he was really having a ton of fun with this. And the worst part about this scene though, you could see, I have no idea why. What they were trying to explain in this movie is that the fights in the movie are occurring in some kind of like virtual reality. And so in this one, the helmet is because Ray Park over here is in a skate park. And then this is this weird hockey helmet that he's wearing, and it's just awful. It's just awful. I would never want to watch this movie again because I it's just suffering. It's just suffering right here. They butchered the lore. None of the characters have fulfilled the same roles as they do in the games. For example, Terry Bogard is like a middle-aged secret agent from the CIA for some reason. I don't know why they even bothered to do that, but hey, they got Ray Park. And the good thing about Ray Park, he's Darth Maul. In Star Wars Episode 1, he was Darth Maul. So at least he's the one with like the most martial arts experience in the movie. And he was fun to watch. He's the only good part. Just talking about this movie is giving me headaches. So let's just go back to cool Rugal over here with the pet panther. Yes. And a nicer suit. My goodness. Okay. And if you were like me, who didn't have internet back in the day, at least you could get options like this. So your marquee cards, as they call them here. So they would be attached to the arcade machines, and this is how I would learn most of the moves. But the problem is, these are usually not the complete set of moves. But so you can make do. At least this would give you like the list of characters, and then they would give you like a few moves here, and it's like, okay, it's better than nothing. Alright, at least you could learn some of the mechanics. I did not know about like game facts or anything like that at the time. So, this is the best that I could do. Unfortunately, I cannot use any of the supers because I don't really know the inputs, for example. But hey, at least I know like one or two moves from them. Aki says, this is like the equivalent of guitar chords of the little books. Correct, yes, your jingle, your guitar books, holy cow. It's just... So yeah, at least it would be kind enough to give you some of the mechanics that you could look for. And yeah, it would be there at least. The only problem is that I'm not sure if you've seen this, I don't know if they'll show this, but if you've seen SNK games with their version of the marquee cards, the translations on there are awful. It's so wordy, it doesn't really make sense. I just need to know the joystick inputs. And this is where you could tell that I'm an old fighting game player, because before, nowadays they would use numpad notation to make it a lot more universal. So if you look over here, let's look at Black Hayato's move over here. So Shiden, for example, it's down, forward, and then B. For nowadays, using numpad notation, if you're at your computer right now, and you look it down at your numpad, it will say 2, 3, 6. So you put, like, if you look at your numpad, put your fingers there, 2, 3, 6. That's the same motion as the Shiden move over here, and then you press B. If you came from GameFAQs, which is where I usually learn my stuff, as Aki mentions here, they abbreviated it to QCF. So QCF is quarter circle forward. And also depending on the game, it will also be called D, DF, F. So down, down, forward, forward. So there was a lot of talk on Twitter not too long ago about when a new fighting game came out, like, should we use numpad notation? Should we still use like QCF? Should we use HCB or half circle back? Those sorts of things. As much as I'm used to like things like QCF, and probably I would refer to it as QCF, I also understand the merit of 236. It's just when you get to games like Tekken, because you can't use numpad notation on Tekken, because the attack buttons are not like A, B, C. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's a whole new list of notations you have to learn. That's why I don't play Tekken. Just leave me to my Capcom and SNK games. At least it's easier that way. Goodness gracious. But yeah, that's just fun. And yeah, as you can see, there are some of the longer marquee cards look like this. So at least they gave you a bunch of moves. Some they would squeeze in a bit more. And at least for some of the these, they would include the supers. So at least you'd know what to do, and it doesn't really look like you don't know anything. Okay, this one definitely is my favorite Jeddah super, Fiore Rosso, where he sticks his hand onto the ground, and then he summons bloody hands to pull you down and then attack you. That was just fun to see, but very scary, because Jeddah has a very, very scary evil laugh. That's him. He's crazy. And so is Dimitri too, because at least Dimitri is you could just search for Midnight Bliss, Dimitri Midnight Bliss on YouTube, and then you'll see, and you can see some very interesting things. And again here, these are the Red Earth peeps down here. So not only can you have Leo the lion, the humanoid lion, and Kenji the ninja, but you also have Hauser, who is a gigantic T-Rex, and Hydron, who is a gigantic squid-like creature. Aki says, Dimitri's Midnight Bliss is all the reason why Dimitri should be in every crossover game, I suppose. But for those who don't know what Midnight Bliss is about, Midnight Bliss is Dimitri's super, and then what he does is that when he hits you with it, it turns the enemy into a female character. If they're male, it turns them into a female character. But if they're already a female character, then it puts them in like a very sexy costume. Except for Morrigan. Whenever he hits Morrigan with Midnight Bliss, she turns into like this weird, ugly, chibi version of herself. So, but every other female character gets a sexier costume. Every male character becomes a female character. So, what's this? Let's go back to Dimitri if we could still find him over here. I saw something earlier that probably would help you all understand what it looks like. There. This is what Midnight Bliss looks like. So you could see he's already turned these characters into female versions of themselves. This one is Ken. Ken, female version. That's actually his wife, Eliza, in the lore. So yeah, he turns them into like female characters that they may be related to in the lore. So yeah, Ken gets turned into Eliza. Terry Bogard turns into Femme Terry, who made her canonical appearance in SNK heroines. So yeah, that's another thing. But yeah, if Dimitri ends up in like a game like with 30 characters, good lord, all of the programming for Midnight Blitz is going to be difficult. But anyway, that's going to be a problem if ever they're going to release Darkstalkers for the future. But here's what I'm really looking forward to. Because again, I don't know about you, chat, but for me, I have listened, well, most of the time, or almost all of my time owning like an iPod or a music player, it was just filled with video game music. More often than not, it was fighting game music. I don't know, it's just fighting game music usually has like a good way to pump me up, you know what I mean? And being able to listen to these tracks really is something that helps me, makes me feel very happy. Above everything else, being able to listen to all the music here, it'll help me like relive all of my childhood. My childhood when my joints didn't hurt and I didn't have to worry about adulting. So there's that. Oh well, it do be like that sometimes. But yeah, for those who really worry about it, yeah, you do have EX settings, so you can play as not only as regular Iori, but you can play as Orochi Iori over here. Then you can play as God Rugal and Evil Ryu as well, and a bunch of other things like that. So just a bunch of interesting trivia you could find out here. And then training mode with your hitboxes and hurt boxes. I never cared about those things. It's like, that's why I was never good at fighting games. Okay, I never cared about things like frame data, what your hitboxes or hurt boxes are. I just want, okay, me hit button, me do damage, brain think good. Oh my goodness. That's just it's just my primitive brain just likes the instant feedback of big damage. Why do you think I pick grapplers? Because they do big damage. My god. And yeah, you could save mid-game, so if you have to fight, if you're about to lose, apparently you could go ahead and restart. Alright, let's see. And one button specials for like easier experiences for newbies. That's fine. I don't really care about that. There's this whole discussion on Twitter, because I hang out there way too often, that we shouldn't be allowing for things like one button specials, one button supers for newbies. But it's like, as long as they have things like that could nerf it, say if you could press one button, it should do much less damage, then I'll be fine with that. Okay, let them have their tools, and we'll use our tools. So there's that. Okay, and filters. So again, so we can mimic like old CRT TVs. That's great. Definitely something that I would love. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, yes, is like the best example of blending those like simple inputs and complex inputs. It's a good thing. I think more fighting games should do that. And roll back netcode. Honestly, I'm not really a fan. I don't really care about like online play. If I'm gonna play these games, I'm probably just gonna play by myself and play offline, or maybe with friends, because again, even though I grew up in arcades, I never really was into the whole challenge someone right next to you and then, fight to the top. I'm not really a fan of that. I tended to play games that were just, let me just have my fun. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to deal with a test of skill. So, those sorts of things. But yeah, if they have all these tools, simple inputs like what they do with Grand Blue, that would be great. So, there's that. Aki says, are you also a guy who played fighting games for the plot? Yes, that was me. Why do you think I have so much trivia in my brain that I needed to talk about today. This is why this stream exists in the first place, because I saw all these games and there was so much trivia from all my years on Wikipedia and game facts and TV tropes, and I wanted to talk about it before I lose my mind. I was thinking, oh my goodness, should I be playing Until Then? No, let's go ahead and spend the entire stream talking about my brain rot from all of these Capcom games that I never got to play as a kid. Now I can play them and share them with a new generation of gamers. Yeah. Hey Seven, welcome to the stream. Let me just give you a shout out before I forget. Aki with let me just give you the Cyclops and Ryu dap real quick. Yeah, the handshake that shook my entire world as a kid. Goodness gracious. Yeah, that's probably an artwork we should get together, Aki. My goodness. Ryu and Cyclops. My goodness, that would be awesome. Yes. But yeah, this is Capcom Fighting Collection 2, everybody. I will definitely be getting this when it releases on Steam. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to be able to play this. It is also available on Switch, by the way, so if you play on Switch, hey, you get the opportunity to play there as well. There we go again with the Shinkiro art. There we go. Look at Batsu in the background. He's doing the face. It's like, hey, yo, what's up? And funny story, if you look at Ingrid over here, this is, wait, Ingrid. Capcom. Look at her face here, and then look at her face here. It's the same, almost the same art for here in Capcom Fighting Evolution, and here everybody else has like different poses and whatnot and different looks, and Ingrid is just it's like, yeah, Shinkiro didn't get paid enough to do that. I don't know what's the reason why, but let's just pretend like, yeah, we got all this art here. I worked very hard to put Terry here to replace Kyo. Let's just put Ingrid there because, yeah, Ingrid's there. Oh my god. Also, yeah, Mai and Chun-Li always. If Ryu and Terry or Kyo are always going to be there in a crossover, Mai and Chun-Li are going to be there as well. My goodness. Woo, Nelly. Yeah, this is fun. I have never forgotten that. And also, yeah, this is something that I wanted to talk about too, because this reminds me of this previous art that I got with Sushi's. So we already are talking about this famous art by Dai-chan for Street Fighter Alpha 2. So this is me and Sushi's, excuse me, trying to be that. So imagine if we get like Marvel versus Capcom art on this. The handshake that shook my entire life. Diba, Luna? Even bigger than what's this? Than getting a relationship. This was the handshake that changed my entire life. So, growing up, I loved Street Fighter, and I also loved the X-Men cartoon. So, one day, I was going to the arcade with brother Svek, and again, he was good with both of those games, with Street Fighter, with X-Men, and then he comes to me and says, Serjay, they actually have an X-Men versus Street Fighter game. And I said, no way, you're lying to me. And then I saw the arcade cabinet with this, and then it sealed the deal when they finally approached, and then they shook hands, and that was the day that changed my life. Well, one of the days. but a very, very important day. You know, seeing Ryu and Cyclops together, it was just magical. No, it was just magical, and seeing what they did again for Capcom, Marvel versus Capcom Collection. It's like I'm looking at it again, and I'm like, oh man, they look so good together. You know, holding, you know, like their hands like this is like, yeah, bros. Whereas in the previous one, they were like, there were jokes about it on Twitter. It's like, yes, Ryu, yes, Cyclops, very, very cordial relationship. Let's go ahead and, you know, have a good fight with each other. Yes, but then we move on to the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, and then when you look at them together, it's like, yo, Ryu, what's up? Cyclops, what's up? Yeah, hit it over here, yeah. It's bros that haven't seen each other after such a long time coming back together. It almost brings a tear to my eye. But yeah, what was mentioned much, much earlier in the stream, the Marvel vs. Capcom collection is coming up. There's already pre-orders coming out, and it's coming out in September 12th. So I'm definitely going to get that on Steam. And we'll probably go through all of the games here, especially the Punisher. The Punisher beat 'em up, which most of you probably are not familiar with. You know, that's gonna be fun. I like to see a lot more of that classic Punisher beat up, and the art style really does look like this. And if you've seen like what was this? If you have seen the Spider-Verse version of Kingpin. So this is pretty much the same as what's this? As this. This is where they probably got like Spider-Verse Kingpin from, because holy cow, seeing Kingpin as the final boss of this game was really, really something. Anyway, let me just do my 3 squats. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Seeing a lot more of these games coming out. It's I just really want more of these game companies to realize if they're gonna take like 10 years to release their next game, you might as well re-release some of your classics in the meantime. At least that way it'll really, you know, keep us satisfied, keep us happy until we wait. So we're gonna get the Marvel vs. Capcom and Capcom Fighting Collection series before GTA 6, before Elder Scrolls 6. My God. But yeah, that's it. That is the summary of my stream for today, where I yapped for 2 hours about this. Oh my God. So we're gonna be done with this, so let's go ahead and wrap things up on my end. And thank you once again for for everyone for sticking with me. I greatly appreciate that. And also for the follows, we have Starla Minamoto and Momoko Minamoto. Thank you very much for the follows, both of you. I greatly appreciate finally being able to get this out of my mind. I swear, since this thing was announced, I was just blown away completely. Like that. I could not get this out of my head. It was just, and I finally feel the sweet release of getting everything out. My God, I am so happy. We can finally play Until Then and other stuff without having to worry anymore. My God. Okay, but yeah, you see, this is this is just, you know, a peek into Serjay's brain rot arc. My goodness. Oh well, it do be like that sometimes. Yes, FGC catharsis. But anyway, that's it. So I greatly appreciate that. Oh, Nue, sorry if you missed that. But yeah, the VOD will definitely be here. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, oh, wait, let me just fix that first. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, you could go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channels. We have the main channel, which will show my highlight videos, and the VODs channel. So you can go ahead and check out the VOD for this one. It'll be there in like maybe 24 hours. So you'll get to see all how I was able to miraculously sustain this conversation for 2 hours. I'm hopeless. But now we're gonna go ahead and move on and then find someone that we can actually raid for today. So let me go ahead and see who is available, so we could try and see. Tea and pizza? Oh my. Ano naman yung tsaa dito? My goodness. Man, that was a ride. Yes, it was a ride indeed. I was just like that, really about to lose my mind here. Okay, so before we run out of time, let's go ahead and raid Yuna Sakura. We haven't raided her for a while. She is playing the Count Lucanor, which I don't know about. So we'll go ahead and see what this is all about, and then send her some Serjavian Nation love. So here is the raid message. So again, I thank you all for sticking with me as I'm losing my mind. Okay, and anyway, appreciate that. Once again, my name is Serjay. Thank you for your time. I hope this stream brought a little more color to your day. You take care, always stay safe, and keep the world turning. Bye now.